From minor cuts and bruises to disasters and deaths, film and television set incidents are an unfortunate occurrence that can derail entire productions or even an actor's life and career. While these accidents can happen due to a myriad of reasons, such as negligence from staff, improper safety precautions, or through pure chance, accidents do help set standards to minimize chances of said accidents occurring to someone else.
Hey, somebody go up there!
Hello everybody, I'm Fright from Frightopia, and welcome back to yet another video. This video is part 1 of the film and television incident Iceberg, which is exactly what it sounds. It's all about film and television set incidents. A lot of these are just injuries. They rank from minor injuries, which is what we'll be talking about today, to deaths. So it gets deep, as you can see. Like, we're gonna be doing quite a lot of videos on this. This Iceberg was created by Kanasa Curran, and I will leave the link of this Iceberg in the description if you guys want to check it out. And the creator also helped me out with one of the entries, so thank you for that as well. Tier 1 is just about minor injuries. Tier 2 is about concussions or rendered unconscious. Tier 3 is just about cuts, bruises, lacerations, abrasions, all of those good stuff. And Tier 4 will be animal-related accidents. These aren't where animals get hurt, it's rather where animals hurt people. So I guess trigger warning just for if you're sensitive to injury type stuff, this video will not be for you. But yeah, I don't want to waste too much of your time in this intro. I'm going to talk about some stuff like kind of like what's going to happen these next couple months. At the end of the video, if you are interested, stick around for that. But yeah, I think I cover everything. So once again, I'm Fright from Frightopia, and let's get into the video. Tier 1, minor injuries, 1864. 1864 is a Danish drama series about the Second Schlesing War, I believe. I think that's what it's called. But it's between the Kingdom of Denmark and the Germany Confederation. It's, in 1864. During a scene in which actors Jacob Oftebro and Soren Malling were kind of doing some sort of eye-to-eye face-off thing, the camera had to be very close to their face, and they obviously had to keep their eyes open. One of the main reasons why injuries happened on the set of this is because it was filmed in the summer, and this plot of this show happens in the winter. So for the injury with these two actors, I guess the story goes is they had like this machine where they shredded paper, and it shot out this paper like a high speed to make it look like snow. And somebody on the set that was working on this paper machine put in the wrong type of paper, and the paper came out and just cut their eyes. So they both had to go to the hospital, and it was just the lenses of their eyes that were cut, so they ended up recovering fine. And like I mentioned before, due to the fact that it was a winter show filmed in the summer, 18 extras collapsed because they were wearing these big wool coats and stuff. So they just got hot, and it got a little too hot. Cape Fear. Cape Fear is a film in which a man named Max Cady targets a lawyer named Sam Bowden, who helped put him away to prison for 8 years for the R word. So yeah, Max tries to ruin Sam's life and targets his family and stuff. So Sam takes it into his own hands to stop him. Max Cady was played by Robert Mitchum, and there is a scene in which he attacks Sam's wife named Peggy, who was played by Polly Bergen. This scene in which he attacks her was almost fully improvised. During one of the takes, director J. Lee Thompson told Mitchum to just take some eggs off the counter and just smash them on her back and just start rubbing it. This caused Mitchum to cut his hand, and I will read a quote from Bergen, who said, "His hand was covered in blood, my back was covered in blood. We just kept going, caught up in the scene. They came over and physically stopped us." Bergen also suffered back injuries from this, filming this scene so much, just from getting whipped around. She recovered from that in a couple days. Also, during the final fight scene, Gregory Peck, who plays Sam, just straight up punched Robert Mitchum for real, and he felt that for a couple days too. So I thought I would add that on here. Four Frightened People. This is a film about four people who are frightened when they have to escape this plague-ridden boat, and they life raft to a Malaysian jungle. The film's just kind of about like their relationships like between these four people and how this trip affected them after and like when they're done and their life goes on. I couldn't really find a general consensus of what happened, but what I believe happened is that actress Claudette Colbert fell ill with appendicitis pretty much right when they got on set, because a scene had her be like submerged in like a real swamp, which is gross. I guess since this film was made in like the 1930s, it does make sense that they used a real swamp. But the thing that kind of is a little shady is that like she got sick because they told her to do this, and then it kind of she got sick, so they're like, oh, this sucks. Let's replace her. But yeah, Paramount couldn't replace her because one actress was unavailable and the other actress was too expensive. But the other story of what happened actually, I think, probably makes a bit more sense. She had an emergency appendectomy. It says that she had an emergency appendectomy. The surgery where they take your appendix out a day before she was on set. And then because she was in the swamp, she got like a severe fever that caused her to be hospitalized, and that's why they tried to replace her. Also, the thing with her being in the swamp is that they said that the on-set nurses were like, probably you shouldn't put her in the swamp in the first place, but especially after she had the surgery. But the director didn't anyways, so yeah, that seems like it's on him. The Lost Patrol. This film is about a British patrol in World War I crossing through Mesopotamia. They're surrounded by snipers, and once their commanding officer is killed by a sniper, they kind of have to band together and figure out what to do because they don't know where they're going or like how they're going to get out of there. So this film was shot in the Algones Dunes in California and Yuma, Arizona during the summer, so needless to say, it was a wee bit hot out there. So yeah, production was plagued with excessive heat, bad water, dysentery. This excessive heat was terrible, with it even reaching 130 degrees on some of these days. This caused, for the actors' sake, they can only work 2 hours a day, and one of the film's producers was a little upset about this. He believed that their break should be shortened and that they should work more hours because they're being babied. So he wanted to prove a point, so he was just like out and about in the heat, being like, oh, look how long I can last in the heat. And then he had a sunstroke and he was hospitalized. SWAT. This television show is about the SWAT in LA. This entry is on this list because in 2018, actor Kenny Johnson was filming a scene in which he was simulating hanging on the landing gear of a helicopter. It's not really clear what exactly happened, but he got injured and he required physical therapy, which caused him to be out the rest of season 3 and the beginning of season 4. He was also out of a lot of season 4 because he was in a lawsuit in which he was suing on the grounds of negligence, ultra-hazardous activity, and peculiar risk. The Ten Commandments. This film is a 3-hour and 40-minute long film about the story of Moses in the Bible. One of the injuries that happened on the set is when director Cecil B. DeMille was climbing up a 107-foot ladder in like the middle of Egypt and suffered a heart attack, which was probably due to the fact that he was 72 years old climbing up a 107-foot ladder. He eventually returned back to the set, but he had to reduce his physical stress so this wouldn't happen again. So his daughter Cecilia ended up taking over directorial duties. And also, this would unfortunately be his last film, as he would die at age 77 after having a bunch more heart attacks and heart problems. There was also a bunch of like stuff that happened during the sandstorm scene. Basically, they simulated a sandstorm by just blowing sand everywhere. One extra had a torch, and he tripped and fell and set this girl on fire. However, Frank Westmore, a makeup artist, was able to quickly think, and he like helped rip her clothes off, so she only had minor burns. And a bunch of extras were also hurt by like getting stung by scorpions or bitten by cobras, just because this sandstorm like blew them out of their holes, and they were a little upset, so they were lashing out at the people. Which is why I don't know In what reality would an artificial sandstorm do anybody any good? Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. Attack of the Killer Tomatoes is basically a spoof of science fiction type movies in which tomatoes come to life and attack people. This incident it really makes sense for the movie and actually kind of made it better, which is weird to say. Towards the beginning of the film, there's a scene in which police are shooting at these tomatoes in a field, and this helicopter is supposed to like come in and land, but this $60,000 helicopter that they rented for the movie, it was landing and the tail rudder struck the ground, causing it to spin out and like crash, and it sort of like burn up in flames and stuff. The reason why I said it kind of helped the movie is because the pilot was only minorly injured, but they kept the scene in the movie, and like the actors in the film like did some quick like improv about the plane crashing and stuff. So they actually like kept it in the movie, and it's like an iconic scene now. Since this was parodying low-budget sci-fi movies, it also had kind of a lower budget itself, and the $60,000 helicopter crashing didn't do much to help the budget, so it actually ended up being like a sizable portion of the budget. Shooter. This television show is an adaptation of Stephen Hunter's book Point Impact, about like a retired sniper who hears like about a plot to assassinate the president, so then he comes out of retirement to help save the president. In 2016, actor Tom Sizemore straight up ran over a stuntman named Steve DeCastro. He was supposed to stay in this car while the scene ended, but he improvised like pulling out. So that's why he hit the stuntman. He had to be airlifted to the hospital with a bunch of broken bones and minor injuries. DeCastro would allege that Sizemore was under the influence of alcohol while shooting the scene, so that is probably why this happened. So he sued, and it was settled out of court. Unfortunately, alcoholism was reported to be a huge problem in Sizemore's career, and he was ultimately let go of the show. Ripley's Believe It or Not. This entry is talking about a helicopter crash in Arizona. They were setting up a segment about the world's largest rubber band ball, and while they were flying to set, one of the helicopters for the project ran into some power lines and crashed. However, nobody was badly injured. The helicopter pilot, David Gibbs, had his license suspended, which caused his family to, for some reason, sue the production. But unfortunately, David Gibbs would pass away in 2013, along with 2 other passengers, as he would crash again. Invasion of the Body Snatchers. This film is about a bunch of creatures that take over like the bodies of humans and stuff, and people naturally try to stop them. During a scene in which Donald Sutherland is running, he crosses the street and he's hit by a Volkswagen Beetle going at a slow speed, so he wasn't like injured that badly or anything, but he reported that when he fell on the windshield of the car, he saw the lady driving, and he can see her like mouthing like, or like she was saying it, but like he read her lips, and she just said, "Oh God, not you." Grease. Grease is one of the most well-known musical movies. It's about a group of like 1950s teenagers in high school. During a scene in which Jeff Conaway was dancing on the back of a car, he slipped off and fell, and he like injured his back really bad. This injury caused him to be prescribed opiates, which unfortunately led to a long-lasting addiction. He would eventually pass away in 2011 due to pneumonia with sepsis. And doctors believe that if he wasn't addicted to painkillers, he would have figured out that he had this sickness, but he unfortunately would not find out until it was too late. Also, several cast members fell ill with heat-related illnesses due to the prom scene being shot in an area where they had like no ventilation or windows or anything, so it rose up to like 116 degrees in there. Kick-Ass 2. This film is about teenage superheroes, and it's based off a graphic novel series. Injuries were very common throughout shooting because there's like tons of fight scenes in it. There's one fight scene where Chloe Grace Moretz is kicked and she flies across the room and like hits a bunch of stuff. So naturally there was a stunt double for this. The stunt double was pulled by a hydraulic system, which unfortunately pulled her like an inch too far, which caused her to hit her head on something, which cracked her head open and caused her to bleed. Carrie. This film is the original Carrie we are talking about, of course. It's a film about a teenage girl who is abused at home and bullied at school, and she gets these psychic powers that she uses to exact her revenge. To try not to spoil anything, during, the scene at the dance, PJ Souls' character named Norma is killed by a fire hose. She didn't use a stunt double or anything for this shot, and her getting sprayed in the ears actually caused her eardrums to pop. This shot is actually also included in the film, so what little reaction you see from her was genuine, and she was unable to hear out of one of her ears for several months until it fully healed. The Masked Singer. The Masked Singer is a show in which celebrities go and sing, but they are in these big suits, so the judges have to try to figure out who they are. Teyana Taylor, who wore the Firefly costume, started choking when it is believed that part of her mask went up and caused her to be unable to breathe. However, she was quickly helped and was able to return and finish her set.
Somebody needs to help her. Someone needs to help her.
Somebody get up there. Hey, somebody get up there. She's choking. Get a medic right now.
Now.
Watch that.
I'm right here to take it off.
And also, Michelle Williams, who wore the butterfly costume, was shocked when her costume kind of malfunctioned when a CO2 effect happened on stage. But both of these were very minor injuries that didn't really cause barely any harm, basically.
When the CO2 went off during the song, something short-circuited and I got electrocuted through the platform I was standing on.
911. This show is a drama that kind of just follows first responders, and this entry that we are talking about actually surrounds Ronda Rousey. She is an Olympic judo medalist, a former UFC champion, and a WWE superstar who also acts in 911. But yeah, there was a scene where she slammed a door. However, she slammed her fingers in it, and her middle finger broke and severed the tendon, and her ring finger, just the tip of it, was broken. 63rd Tony Awards. The Tony Awards happen yearly, and it is just a show kind of like the Oscars and stuff like that, where it is a show that celebrates Broadway theater. During the opening of the Tony Awards, there's typically musical guests that perform while Broadway people dance around and stuff. So Poison performed Nothing But a Good Time, and there's a part where everybody kind of runs back to the back of the stage while this giant thing kind of slowly goes down, and they're all around it singing. But Bret Michaels was a little too late, and one of the pieces of scenery, when it was coming down, he hit his head on it and fell. This caused him to fracture his nose and cut his lip. People said that he had reportedly still had a fun time performing, but he later sued the event organizers, claiming that this event led to his brain hemorrhage a year later, and this lawsuit was settled in 2012. Pearl Harbor. This is a film about Pearl Harbor. Don't know what else to say about it. During a scene in which there's pilots flying around, one of the stunt pilots who was flying a Japanese plane accidentally clipped a palm tree and crashed. However, he was only dazed and had a broken finger. Video Option. Video Option is a Japanese car entertainment channel. There is a lot of crashes in this show that they showcase, but this is the one that I needed some help from the creator with. And what they said was the main one that they were talking about was Dajiro Inada, who injured his hip after his car left the road and rolled 7 times when he was going 210 miles per hour. When he was going this fast, the tire blew, so he flipped and stuff. And he only injured his hip, which is very lucky that it was only just that. So, Tier 2, concussions or rendered unconscious. The 11th Hour. This film is about an evil prince who gets this new explosive and tries to take over the world. There is this scene in which stunt pilot Dick Kerwood is supposed to parachute out of an airplane before it blows up. However, the timer on the explosives were faulty, causing the explosions to actually happen while he was in the plane. He was extremely dazed and had a severe concussion. However, he was still able to open up the parachute and land safely. Earthquake. Earthquake is a movie about earthquakes in LA. But actually, interestingly about this, just because it came out in 1974, it had actually the record for most stunt artists in a film at the time at 141, which is actually a lot. Actually, wait, I'm going to look up the current record, actually. Apparently, the #1 film is The Dark Knight Rises with 267. So it was only like half. For a 1970s film, that's actually like decent, you know? Stuntman Bernie Dobbins suffered a concussion when he was swept off his feet in this flood scene, and it was actually included in the film. And there is an elevator crash scene in which the set is designed to fall on them. So, like, of course they're going to get injured. But yeah, those are the 2 injuries that I could see. But that's for that many stunt people on a film in the 1970s, and there's only like a couple injuries. That's pretty good, I think. Back to the Future Part 3. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of this one. This is on a lot of those like Watch Mojo lists and stuff. But yeah, this is a film in which Marty McFly has to go back in time to prevent Dr. Brown from being murdered. There's a scene in which he's being hung, and actor Michael J. Fox was actually hung for real, and he lost consciousness due to, like, being unable to breathe. People on set at first were just like, oh, like, this guy's a good actor, he's doing a real good job. But one of the extras noticed, and he was lowered and ended up being fine. Kill Bill Volume 2. Kill Bill 2 is just, like, the continuation of the Kill Bill story, in which the bride is killing people that wronged her. But yeah, there was a scene in which Quentin Tarantino wanted Uma Thurman to drive this stunt car, but she wanted a stunt driver to drive for her because she didn't trust the car because it was like messed with, like the transmission was tampered with or something. But yeah, like Quentin Tarantino got all upset and he was like, no, you have to do it, and you also have to drive 40 miles per hour to get your hair flowing the right way in the wind. This unfortunately caused her to lose control, and she crashed into a palm tree, which injured her neck and her knees and caused her to get a severe concussion. She kept trying to get the tape of her crash because it was filmed, but Quentin Tarantino was unable to give it to her. However, after Harvey Weinstein was exposed for everything that he did, Tarantino was finally able to give her the tape. She published it on the Times website and posted it on her Instagram, in which she forgives and commends Tarantino for giving it to her, and she calls out people such as Lawrence Bender, E. Bennett Walsh, and of course Harvey Weinstein for the cover-up. Hand of Death. Hand of Death is a martial arts film in which a young monk has to fight some lore lords. During a scene, Jackie Chan was kicked backwards and was like kind of like flung back by wires. However, it went wrong and he landed on his head, which caused him to be unconscious for 20 minutes. Gettysburg. I don't know like how I'm supposed to describe these films sometimes. It's about the Battle of Gettysburg. I want to describe these. But, you know, sometimes there's only so much I can say. But yeah, during the battle scene of the battle on Little Round Top, a Union soldier extra named Bradley Egan was struck on accident by a musket and got a mild concussion. But he was able to resume filming and participate in like lighter activities the next day. Charlie's Angels. This entry is probably one of the more gnarly ones we'll talk about on in this video. There was a scene that stunt women Julie Ann Johnson and Jeanne Coulter had to jump out of a moving car that was driven by stuntman Bobby Bass. However, Bobby Bass was reportedly high on cocaine at the time, so instead of slowing down when they needed to jump out, he sped up. Johnson landed on her head and was writhing around on the ground even though she was unconscious, and she suffered other injuries as well. Coulter had a near-death experience which caused her to start running around without really knowing why. She had a concussion and some other injuries as well. Allegedly, Johnson knew that like the crew knew that Bobby was high because she heard a crew member earlier that day say, "Bobby got the last of the coke this morning, god damn it." Johnson was later like fired from the show because she believed that she was fired for complaining about Bobby's drug problems, and so she actually won a wrongful termination lawsuit for $1 million. She ultimately won because Coulter came and confirmed Bass's behavior, and this is where like a lot of this information came out. However, Bobby Bass had an unfortunate end to his life. He was diagnosed with Parkinson's at age 65 and then shortly after took his own life. Tier 3, lacerations, cuts, and abrasions. Django Unchained. I'm sure a lot of you guys know about this one as well. If you ever sat down and watched Django Unchained with the film bro and he pauses it at the scene in which Leonardo DiCaprio slams his table on that tabletop and he cuts it, but he keeps filming because Leonardo DiCaprio is a pro. All seriousness, even though this entry is talked about a lot, it is still, like, honestly, a very impressive acting feat in which Leonardo DiCaprio keeps acting after slamming his hand on a table and cutting it.
Hey! Don't lay your palms flat on that tabletop. If you lift those palms off that turtle shell tabletop, Mr. Pooch is gonna let loose with both barrels that sawed off.
And even though his hand needed stitches, they kept, like, the fact that he cut his hand into the movie and, like, kind of, like, wrote that in the script with him rubbing blood and stuff on people. And it was funny, he reported that when he was finishing the scene, even though, like, after he cut his hand, and he saw Quentin Tarantino and Jamie Foxx just like, so yeah, I like Leo. This is a good story. Pink Floyd, The Wall. This film is kind of like a visual kind of performance piece of the album of the same name, about the upbringing of a drugged up musician. In the scene in which the main character Pink, played by Bob Geldof, I think is how you pronounce his name, he's like tearing up his hotel room, and he is tearing like a wooden door, and he cuts his hand, and they actually kept that shot in the film because you can see him rip off like the wood, and then you see him like briefly start looking at his hand, and then they cut to him doing something else. So Ben-Hur. This legendary film is about a Jewish prince who seeks vengeance on a friend that sent him into slavery. During the legendary chariot race scene that took like, I think like a month to film and a couple $1 million, stuntman Joe Canut was tossed in the air, and he luckily did not get like trampled by horses or anything. He only got like a chin laceration. However, they kept that into the final film and cut it so that it shows the main character, who he was being the stuntman for, climbing back on and like catching himself and stuff, which is actually like a really interesting, like, I think it's pretty cool that they kept that in, like like a film accident that they ended up turning into like a legendary scene, kind of like Attack of Killer Tomatoes. The Omen. The Omen is one of the most overrated horror movies of all time. Oh, I don't think people aren't going to like that, are they? But yeah, it's about a family who adopts a child who, spoiler alert, may or may not be the Antichrist. I won't tell. This entry is talking about when Gregory Peck, I think I mentioned earlier, accidentally slammed a car door on an actor named, I'm sorry if I pronounced this wrong, Guglielmo Spolotini. He portrayed an Italian car driver. He almost needed his finger to be amputated, and you could see like a bandage in the final shot on his finger. The Curse of the Omen film could also be kind of talked about in its own like separate video. I'm sure someone's covered this, but if you guys like want me to cover it, I could. I'll do a quick rundown. I'm just going to read this list off. The crew was in a car accident on the first day of filming. 2 planes, one with Gregory Peck and the other one with screenwriter David Seltzer, were both struck by lightning. The trainers for the Rottweilers were injured by the dogs while filming, and one of the animal handlers was eaten alive by a lion 2 weeks after filming. The Woman God Forgot. This is a silent film directed by Cecil B. DeMille, who we talked about earlier. In one scene, this is one of the ones that's just like, what are you doing? I understand it's 1917 and there were like no rules, but there was an Aztec pyramid made of wood and sandpaper, and they were just tossing extras pretty much over the side of it, and they like slid down, and since it's sandpaper, they were badly scraped, and they just had a crew member at the bottom with iodine, apparently, just like for their cuts. Like as soon as they came down, I was like, here's some iodine. Man, this is... Oh, man, Cecil, what are you doing? Patriot Games. This is a film about a battle of a CIA agent and the brother of a terrorist that he killed. During the final fight scene, Harrison Ford accidentally hit actor Sean Bean in just like above the eyebrow with a metal hook, which caused him to be scarred. Premium Rush. This is a film about a bike messenger who picks up a mysterious letter that causes a dirty cop to kind of chase him around town. During one of the scenes, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, he's supposed to like answer the phone while he's riding his bike, and he got kind of distracted and ran into a back of a taxi, and he flew into the rear windshield of the taxi, and he cut his arm open really badly, and he needed 31 stitches. And they included like the aftermath of this in the credits. I'm not going to show that obviously because that's gross, but I mean, if you guys want to see it, go for it. Ghostland. This is another one of those just like really unfortunate ones that we talk about like this early in the Iceberg. Ghostland's a film about a family reuniting at their house like years after some disaster happens. However, this film is honestly like more known for this incident that we're about to talk about than the actual film itself. There is a scene in which actress Taylor Hickson has to like pound on this glass door over and over again. She hit it too hard and the glass shattered, which cut her face, causing her to need 70 stitches, and like she has this like really big scar on her cheek now. Deservedly, she sued Incident Productions. That's kind of ironic that it's called Incident Productions, over lost work because of the scar on her cheek. She claimed that the director Pascal Laugier kept telling her to hit it harder and harder, which eventually caused her to hit it hard enough to shatter the glass. And also that they probably should have gave her a stunt double to do it or had reinforced glass or something of the sort. But yeah, it's just really unfortunate. It wasn't anything she did that caused this. It was just negligence of the staff. And now she's having a hard time continuing her acting career. So yeah. 7. This legendary film is about two detectives who have to track down this serial killer who kills people based on like the 7 deadly sins. There is a chase scene in which Brad Pitt's character is chasing the serial killer. During this scene, Brad Pitt slipped on a rain-slicked car bonnet, which caused him to crash his like arm through a windshield. He ended up cutting nerves and tendons on his left arm, and he was pretty much forced to use this cast for the rest of the filming. And Fincher even said that like he saw like exposed bone after this, which is just gnarly. But it is interesting that they did write the cast for like the rest of the film. But whenever they shot stuff from like the past, he had to always hide his hand behind something or have it in his pocket. Castaway. Castaway is another legendary film about a survivor of a plane crash who is on this deserted island. During filming, Tom Hanks it wasn't that big of a cut on his leg, and like obviously he thought nothing of it. He pretty much just got like a sore on his leg, and he was like, "Oh, we just keep filming." However, 2 weeks later, it was still swollen, so they went to a hospital to check it out. It turns out that he actually had a staph infection that was like slowly eating its way through his leg, and he had to be hospitalized for 3 weeks due to the fact that he probably could have died from blood poisoning. The Guns of Navarone. This film is about a small commando army that attacks German artillery on the Greek island of Navarone, and of course, it includes director J. Lee Thompson and stars Gregory Peck. So those are two people that we've already talked about. I think Gregory Peck's been talked about a couple times. But yeah, they filmed a scene where it was like an ocean storm that they simulated. They used a 200 by 200 foot tank full of water. So yeah, these actors were like thrown around this boat as they pretty much just put water through airplane engines and shot it at them. And there was more water coming from above and wind machines from above. They're in a Greek fishing boat replica, so like it's not the most sturdy craft or vessel, if you will. But yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and read these injuries because there's a lot. Gregory Peck got a 3-inch gash on his forehead. David Niven and Anthony Quinn twisted their spines, and Niven almost drowned. Stanley Baker wrenched his neck. James Darren was knocked unconscious and almost drowned. But yeah, I think the main reason, other than the cut that Gregory Peck had, David Niven got a cut on his lip that got infected with sepsis. He was allegedly in grim condition and was rushed to the hospital where he was given antibiotics. Apparently they made him come back to filming early, which caused the sepsis to come back, and he was hospitalized for 7 weeks, which led to them considering actually scrapping the film. The Avengers. This is the MCU movie that was like the first big team up, if you are somehow not aware of the Avengers. There was a film in which stuntman Jeremy Fitzgerald was to be shot by an arrow and then fall 30 feet off a building. While he was falling during one take, his foot got caught on the way down and he hit his head on a brick, which like took a chunk out of his head. There's like pictures of it online. I don't recommend you look it up, but if you want to, it's there. He was lucky that he actually like narrowly missed the sharp gutter that could have like just took his head off. But this guy was a G. He just bandaged it up and he was like, let's take a couple more takes. So they took a couple more takes. Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. This is a film in which Michael Myers kills more people. One of the injuries was Garland Wild. He was a gaffer for the film, which is like one of the light people. He dropped one of the lights and it shattered and cut his wrists, so he was rushed to the hospital. And this next injury just, it just sounds terrible. Actress Ellie Cornell was sliding down a roof and there was a protruding nail and it caught her stomach. And it was just like, but apparently she lost a lot of blood, but like recovered quickly and continued filming. So, but yeah, that's just, I hate hearing about like protruding nails. Those are like the worst, man. Lost is a show about once again plane crash survivors on an island. So spoiler alerts, but during the finale of the show, actor Terry O'Quinn mistakenly picked up a dulled down real knife instead of the prop knife and stabbed Michael Fox in his side. Luckily, Michael Fox they were wearing like protective gear on, so the Kevlar vest ended up like saving him. Fury is a film about a bunch of Allied troops who go on a dangerous mission behind enemy lines in World War II. During a rehearsal, one of the stuntmen was accidentally stabbed in the shoulder with a bayonet. He was rushed to the hospital and ended up being fine. But yeah, also I just wanted to include this like short story that kind of had some injuries. Director David Ayer made the cast of this film kind of do like actual boot camp for a week, and he encouraged them to like fight each other and stuff, which caused a lot of people to get black eyes and bloody noses. And he made them live like in tanks together where they were like miserable, cold, and they ate cold food and stuff. Basically like trying to break them down to feel like real soldiers before actually filming. Tier 4, animal related injuries. Napoleon and Samantha. This is a film about an 11-year-old who takes care of her circus friend's lion. But yeah, 10-year-old Jodie Foster was filming a scene in which she was leading a lion with like an invisible leash that they kind of just edited in like post. But yeah, a substitute lion was used that day, and it seemingly got sick of her walking slow in front of her, so it just picked her up and held her sideways by her head. It shook her around a little bit, and the trainer said, "Drop it," and the lion dropped her. She was left with scars on her back and stomach, and Jodie Foster has had a lifelong fear of cats ever since. Roar. Okay, so yeah, I'm sure this is, if you've heard anything about animal-related accidents and injuries on sets, you've heard about Roar. But yeah, basically this is a film in which a family travels to Africa in which they live with this scientist, and they get to see all of his animals and stuff. And because of all these issues, filming took 5 years and production took 6. So it came out in 1981, which means that it probably started filming in 1970, which can kind of help explain why all these accidents happen with like less rules and regulations and stuff. And to kick the film while it's down, it also just grossed $2 million out of the $17 million budget. So yeah, due to the sheer number of untrained animals on set, there was an estimated 70 animal-related injuries, with some people believing there was over 100. Due to this list that I have concocted, I will just read it instead of trying to memorize it. Director Norm Marshall was bitten around 11 times. He almost lost his arm after being bitten through his hand. He had 8 puncture wounds on his leg, and he was hospitalized with head and chest injuries and had blood poisoning and later gangrene. Tippi Hedren was bitten in the head by a lion named Cherries, and Cherries' teeth scraped against her skull, and She was also picked up by a 5'10" elephant by her ankle, and which fractured it. People believe that the elephant was just trying not to let her fall, but due to this, she got phlebitis and gangrene, as well as a fractured hand. And this same elephant bucked her trainer into a tree and fractured her shoulder. And Hedron was also scratched by a leopard on the arm and bitten by a cougar on the chest. Melanie Griffith received 50 sutures after being attacked by a lioness. They feared that she would lose an eye, but she recovered after facial reconstruction surgery. John Marshall was bitten on the back of the head by a lion, requiring 56 sutures. And Jerry Marshall was bitten in the thigh by a lion and hospitalized alongside Hedron for a month. Cinematographer Jean Desbonts was scalped by cherries and received 20 sutures. A lion named Togar bit assistant director Doron Copper in the throat and jaw and tried to pull off one of his ears after he accidentally cued an attack. This assistant director was also injured in the chest, scalp, and thigh and required 4.5 hours of surgery. And after this happened, about 20 crew members just left, which I don't blame them. The set was also flooded due to heavy rain, which caused $3 million in damages and set some animals loose. And people believe that the film was cursed by the Exorcist curse due to the fact that Marshall financially helped the film. Hotel Imperial. This is a film about a young woman who disguises herself as a chambermaid and tries to uncover the truth about her sister's death. During a scene where there's a cavalry charge, actor Ray Milland fell in a pile of masonry when his horse jumped and the saddle came loose. He spent a week in the hospital with a concussion, a 3-inch gash on his forehead, and a badly injured left hand. Trifling Woman. This is a silent romantic film about a father telling his daughter a story which basically is being like, stop being so flirtatious, in 1920s fashion. It is one of these couple films that we're going to be talking about that's considered lost. An orangutan named Joe Martin attacked Edward Connolly, biting him and breaking his arm. When researching, it says that it took can't believe I'm saying this, but it said it took 3 people to, quote, twist his balls to get him to let go. I feel bad for laughing because doing research, Joe Martin had like just a very sad life. I honestly might just do like a short video on Joe Martin just because it seemed like in like the early 1900s, late like 1800s, these like animals used for entertainment I'm just like treated super poorly. It's just like super sad, but yeah, I would love to do a video on Joe Martin sometimes. I just want to do further research. Top Gear. Top Gear is a British motoring show. Basically, disaster struck when they had 2 old people ride horses. Richard Hammond fell off a horse and was rushed to a hospital. And James May cracked 3 ribs while trying to mount a horse. So, yeah. Old people and horses probably do not mix well.
Whoa. Has he gone? What happened?
It reared and mounted that. Don't get kicked.
The Brass Bottle. This is a silent fantasy comedy film about a architect that finds a genie bottle and is considered lost. This is just another example of animals being treated poorly and kind of lashing out. A elephant named Charlie grabbed his trainer Curly Stecker by his trunk and put his head in his mouth while kneeling on him. It was likely that the elephant was angered due to the fact that he was painted white and had just a bunch of stuff on him. The trainer was able to survive because 2 men were able to distract the elephant. They like put a bunch of stuff together to make like some sort of makeshift like weapon, just start poking him to get him to let go. Stecker was able to walk away with only rib fractures, lacerations, contusions, and a concussion. Wet and Warmer. So we're going to kind of end this video with a kind of a more comedical injury. It's just, this is only funny, I think, because there's like little to no information on this film. I can't find any information on it since it's like 1919. It's a short, silent comedy film, and I can only find like information about the cast and some stills. But comedian Billy Ritchie was kicked in the stomach by an ostrich. That's all I could find. He was kicked in the stomach by an ostrich. But yeah, that's the video. If you made it this far, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. This video was actually probably my favorite to research so far. I don't know, I like film and TV and stuff, so it's interesting to research a lot about films, I think. But yeah, I'm sorry that it took a while to upload. Life, as usual, has been a little bit crazy. I'm currently moving out of my apartment this upcoming Saturday. I'm hoping I upload this video before, but I'm going to be living with my friends for a month, so I probably won't have my computer there, so I might not upload for a month, but I'm going to use that time to work on scripts and stuff, and then this is the last video you'll see in this place. I will be moving into a new house in a month. So I'm excited for that. And the reason I haven't uploaded in a while is because, a couple weeks ago my car got broken into, so I had to deal with insurance and stuff for about a week. And I was going up and down from back home to here. So my brother had a graduation party, so I went up back to where I lived as a kid. And then this past week I was on vacation. So yeah, now I'm back. I'm going to use this week to try to get this video uploaded and stuff. I'll be in Discord if you guys want to talk. Keep in contact with me for that week. And I have Twitter and all that good stuff as well. But yeah, once I get into my new house, I'm going to put a lot more emphasis on YouTube. I'm going to try to upload more consistently because I haven't done that good of a job. Oh yeah, because I'm also graduating in a couple weeks as well. So yeah, just a lot of stuff going on. I just got a job, an internship at a law office, which is cool. So yeah, it's been a chaotic summer. I'm sorry I haven't been able to upload as much as I wanted to and as much as I said I would. But once I get into this new house, I want to start uploading more, and I want to start streaming on Twitch, and I'm talking to my cousin and my brother about maybe making a second channel where we do videos on there. So yeah, I'll keep all you guys updated on that, and I don't want to drag this video on any longer. So yeah, I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and for those that have stuck around. I think I've been on YouTube for almost a year now, or maybe over a year now, which is almost a year. But yeah, it's been quite a ride so far, and I'm excited to see where this goes. And yeah, as usual, I'm Fright from Frightopia, and thank you for watching.